All right, guys, welcome to another episode on the podcast. Got myself, Brian, my co-host, Squints, and our new friend, Rod. How's it going today, bud?
How you doing, guys?
Good.
Thanks for coming. We appreciate
man.
your time.
Thanks for having us here.
Yeah.
Appreciate Nick for doing the introduction.
Big Nick, thank you.
Big Nick.
Want to kind of give us a background on who you are and where you're at, and then we'll kind of dive deeper from there.
Sure. So I've been in the mortgage industry for 22 years now. Started in 2003. I was a junior for WAMU before Chase picked it up. Got some wings from there. I went to Wells Fargo, spent about 6 years there. And then got recruited to go out of there into HSBC. Spent 10 years at HSBC. And so I was in that retail race for almost 17 years of my life. And it led to me not feeling so great. I kind of started feeling a little sick. And I was forced out of work. And basically...
Physically or mentally?
Both.
Both.
It began with, I was turning 40 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Getting up in the morning, I was limping to the bathroom, had some body pains. My doctor thought I was actually developing fibromyalgia. And it was due from stress. So the mind got to the body.
Yeah.
And my doctor was like, listen, man, at the pace you're running, you gotta slow down before, something bad happens. And I'm like, okay, it was a tough decision for me to make. So I did that and kind of stayed off the workforce for 30 months. And it was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, but the worst thing that's ever happened to me because, there was no purpose. Got up in the morning, financially I was fine, but all my boys are working. That rat race had completely stopped for me. So I had to regroup and we realized that like, hey man, this is not really the life I want to live. The work I was doing wasn't really giving me the reward that I wanted. Financially it was, but not everywhere else. So I went through a really bad breakup at the time, separated from some kids that I really liked a lot. And I moved from a really nice home into a one bedroom, an extra bedroom with my friend's house, driving a electric car that couldn't even get me back to where I came from. And so sucked that up. And I was getting recruited back to go to the bank. Decided to not take the bank job anymore. It wasn't me. And I kind of fell in this huge discovery mode about who I was, why did I think the way I did, why did I behave the way that I did. And I decided, you know what, I'm really good at what I do, but can I do it somewhere else? So I started Mortgage Globe, which is my company today. And I decided that if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it my way. And I wanted to take the commission out of the picture and really become a solutions-based company because the money wasn't really driving me. It didn't drive me before. I didn't want to sell from desperation. So we set up our company in a way where our comps are almost identical across every single bank. So we're not moving a client from bank A to bank B because there's something for us to gain. It's really the best choice for the client. And when I switched the vision, when I switched the purpose, then everything changed for me. The company did really, really well. I think I did a 6x increase in income, a 6x increase in volume.
Wow.
We're now a team of 10. We're continuing to grow. Proud to say that we're actually surviving the down market. I'm actually almost as busy as I've been before. And I think it all happened because I put the client in front. It wasn't really a commission play anymore. It was really solutions. I have different conversations with my clients now. I say things like, hey man, the best rate may not be the best rate for you. And I explain to them why. Let's look at the bigger picture. How much down payment are you going to put in? Should you keep some money in the bank instead? Maybe go with a little higher rate. Maybe have your assets work for you. We changed the whole approach a little bit more.
Financial education.
Sort of. And giving, not just sell. Like, hey, you want to put 30% down? You want to do this deal? This is best for you? No problem. Let's go. I like to push back. I like to give my clients a manual because there are always choices on the table. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, it's been our 4th year now, and it was a tough road, but I'm glad I made the choice.
So if it's not commission based anymore, how does the structure work for the business itself to be profitable?
We still have commissions in place, but they're set, they're fixed. Okay. So to give an example, when you sign up with a lender, you have to pick what your compensation is going to be, and it can range from X to Z. I took a survey of what the national average was, and I went 30% below the national average.
Wow.
To stay competitive, of course.
Uh-huh.
And I made sure that all of our comps were identical from lender to lender, which is very not traditional for brokers. A lot of brokers, they'll make X here, they make Y there. And that gives the staff or the sales team maybe, I shouldn't say dishonesty, but they can say, hey, I can make a little more here versus over there. Let me just take the client here instead. I didn't want that culture in the company. I want us to kind of just sell based on what's best for the client. So we are for profit, so there is compensation, but there isn't a difference in compensation from lender to lender.
Makes sense.
If that makes some sense.
For the average person that doesn't know, why would someone want to go to a broker versus walking into Chase or Wells Fargo to get their loan?
It's a good question. So those are very square boxes. They only have one product to sell, and there's nothing wrong with them. I actually have really deep relationships with some of those banks, and oftentimes I do refer the client to the bank. Like I said, the bank is a square box, so it has to be a very, very perfect with no hair, call it, right? When 2008 happened, the government rolled out something called a qualified mortgage. A qualified mortgage means it has to meet these criteria: 2 years tax returns, max debt to income ratio has to be X. The file has to fall in a very, very square, very rigid set of guidelines. Brokers work with different lenders that have different types of guidelines. A lot of self-employed guys, for example, they're not quite, income is not quite on their own paper, but their bank statements are solid. We have products that are like based on the income of the building, where it's very similar. It's very similar to commercial, where commercial is something called the debt service ratio. So if you want to buy a building and let's say you're personally loaded with debt, but the building itself will pay for the mortgage, then we can do that deal. A bank could never touch a deal like that. Stated income, you've heard of that.
Yep.
So there's a lot more product offering in the wholesale side than you're gonna find in retail.
So it's just finding multiple ways to make it work versus just the one cookie cutter
Correct.
that
Correct.
a traditional bank gives you.
Exactly.
You're able to deal with different personalities and understand more of people's stories and not just, hey, does X, Y, and Z meet the criteria for this to work? You can take it more on a personal level of
Yeah.
helping people out.
Yeah. I mean, the way I approach my clients, I try to really take the guard off. I have to do an X-ray of their finances anyway. I have to understand what's going on. So that gives me more freedom to kind of understand what's going on with them, what their future holds, what their plans for the properties are. I mean, every client's so different, man, that as a broker, I feel like you have a lot more leeway, a lot more options. And listen, there are times where I say, listen, this is all great, but I feel like Chase might be able to offer a better deal. Let me make a call for you, because we don't know about the retail space, and I don't know if I can say it here, but it matters. The loan officer in retail matters. So if you walk into a bank and you see the guy that's in a suit working in a corner that says mortgage officer, he might not be the guy. The big guys are doing a lot of volume. Those guys are working from home. They're in the corporate offices. So think of it this way. Do you think a guy like Kobe Bryant or LeBron James is going to get more pull, more leeway than a brand new rookie that just got into the league?
Of course.
Without question.
It works the same, So the big guys, they're doing a lot of volume. Those guys have pricing concessions. They can do underwriting exceptions. There's a lot of things you can do. Well, I happen to know who those guys are. So a lot of times I'm able to connect my clients with some of those top guys and even negotiate better pricing than the same client would have gotten from the same bank from a different guy. So I guess my time in retail paid off, because a lot of times I'll do get clients and I say, hey man, listen, you're a Wells Fargo client, but this is the guy at Wells, not that guy. Mm-hmm. So banks don't like talking about this, but that's the truth.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
The truth hurts.
Yeah.
It does.
Perfect. Let's go back to your transition based off of your health and your feelings around things,
Yeah.
It seems like dark times lead to hopefully good decision making and pivots in life that send you in another direction.
Right.
It's we've all been there before, obviously, and we get into these little moments that are like we feel kind of lost or stuck or like we're not headed in the right direction. I'm sure it was a tough time finding your purpose again. What helped you redirect and get back into a good space?
Man, it's a tough question because a lot happened. A lot happened during that phase, and there was a moment specifically because when I went through that breakup, we're going through some therapy towards the end to try to kind of keep things together for the kids, and I kept seeing him for a little while after the breakup. And I was driving pretty far. I mean, I was driving from Long Beach to Calabasas, just actually Thousand Oaks, to see him. And he gave me a book to read called Childhood Disrupted. And I was reading that book back and forth as I was driving. I was listening to that book back and forth as I was driving to see him. And the book talked about all these very young adults that had gone through that were coming through a time in their life where they lived really healthy lives, but everybody was getting sick, either heart disease, cancer. For some reason, there was something in common with these adults. They were healthy overall. They lived healthy lifestyles, but they were coming down sick prematurely, or late 40s, early 50s. So they studied a little deeper, and they found one thing in common between all these adults is that they all have had really, really troubled childhoods.
Wow.
So there was a test in the middle of that book for you to take to figure out how tough your childhood really was. I took the test, mine was a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
So I'm like, man, I don't want my past to determine my future. I don't want things that happened to me as a kid to, maybe press some generic button prematurely in my life. So that's what made me change, because I kept going to see him, and he's like, finish the book. I thought it was the worst book in the world. I'm like, this is fucking my death sentence.
Yeah.
But he's like, man, that brain's really plastic. Finish the book. So I finished the book, and that's what the author talked about. It's like the brain's very plastic, that things can change. So that's when things change. That's when I started changing the way I think. That's when I got deep into reading. I think I went through like 37 books in a year.
Wow.
I got really big in meditation, and I was really on a mission to, okay, I have some time off work. Let's fix what's broken, because things cannot keep going the way they're going. And that began. And I've been doing it ever since. That's what made me not want to go back to the bank and do my own thing. It was so hard at the time that I was selling air conditioning door to door for months until I could actually make some money to pay my bills.
Wow.
And went and got my license, and then it was one deal at a time, and then we did, I think, almost 600 million on our best year, which was two years ago.
Wow.
Last year was a little different. I think we did close to 400. And obviously 2023 has been a little different than for most people in the industry, but I think we're still going to finish this year over 200 million. So, and I'm doing most of the production.
Nice.
But yeah, man, I think I hit a wall, and I realized that, if I don't change, I'm bound to get sick again, or I'm bound to hurt somebody else or make mistakes that I didn't want to make again.
So childhood stress and regression, they through this book you realized is causing us to head in a certain direction, huh? I've never heard of the book before, but that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, because the idea is, stressed children were soaking cortisol for endless amount of time. We're not supposed to be thinking like that. We're not supposed to be worried about adult shit. We're supposed to be worried about kid stuff.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for me, I was exposed to a lot of stuff that I wasn't supposed to. And it's funny, you fast forward from such a young age, so I was 40, 42 years old at a time, and you start realizing, like, man, now I know I think the way I think, And, for everybody listening, I think therapy is great, but therapy is just the beginning. I think if you're like trying to build a house, you can go to Home Depot and buy some stuff. That's what therapy is. I think the work begins with some self-discovery, some reading, putting yourself in challenging situations. I truly believe that meditation is the key to opening all those boxes and finding answers. It's worked for me.
Is it the calm and what in the meditation do you think is helpful in that sense?
I think meditation helps you kind of regress and kind of organize your mind, and it teaches you to kind of expand your thinking in a way. The calming, I think, is like phase one, because everybody says, "Oh, I can't meditate, I can't meditate, I can't do this," and it's tough.
It's tough to shut off.
It's tough to shut off. And even for me today, I mean, I've been doing this for 5, 6 years now, and I still have moments where my mind is still running. But there's a rule in meditation that goes, the first thought is not your fault. The second thought is. So if you're sitting in meditation like, oh fuck, I gotta pay that bill, that's cool. But don't water that garden. Go back to where you were. So I think for me, man, it's been not so much the calming, but understanding who I really am, and understand that I can change anything, that I can really create anything. I really can. I've gone so deep in creation, manifestation, that I've felt the event in such a granular level. I've smelt, I've literally lived some of the things that I want. And it's ironic that things are slowly, in some way, all coming true.
Heading in that direction.
It's like clockwork, man.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Do you find that shifted mindset was what helped you get over your ailments?
100%, because again, it brings hope, right? So let's say as an example, let's say there is I'm going to use as an example. Let's say there is an anxious, small version of Brian from back in the day. Okay, well, that's a memory, right? That's how you used to feel. You shouldn't determine how you feel today or how you're going to feel tomorrow. Well, how do you shift that? Okay, well, you can go to therapy and talk about it, but all they're going to do is they're going to say, well, Brian, you feel this way because 160 years ago, your dad did this. Okay, cool. So now you know why. How do you fix? You're still going to have the feeling, you're still going to understand how it happens. Again, this is all personal.
100%.
Yeah.
What worked for me? Well, maybe in the next meditation, you see that little Brian feeling different, because you know what not feeling anxious feels like, right? See that, live that, breathe that, and doing that over and over and over again, in my opinion, creates change.
And reprograms you to think different.
You just, the same way you program yourself then, you program yourself now. So this is why I think therapy is great as an opener, but I think the cure and the answer that people are really looking for, I think, comes from much deeper work.
Wow.
Makes great sense.
Yeah.
And most people don't want to acknowledge that. Like, we went through some shit in our childhood and we just kind of stuff it, and
Truth hurts, you know? And it's easy when you've been semi-successful or you're able to still get through your day, and it's I use the rock bottom term because a lot of times, rock bottom is a terrible thing, but it can be a jump off point for a pivot in some way. Some people never get to rock bottom.
Yeah.
Some people carry it for long periods of time, and some shoulders are broader than others, right?
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect our life, or it doesn't give us stress, or keep us from being our full potential.
Sure.
But we're strong enough to carry the burden of it and to never address. Be aware, but never address fully or have to go deep. So it is a good point to know that it is up to us to be the change that we want in ourselves first,
Right.
and others second.
You made a good point, man, because I think unfortunately it does take most people, I mean, it happened to me, you have to hit a bottom or something has to happen, loss, something. And a lot of people are fortunate enough to never have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But the fact doesn't change that, you're still carrying that burden. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something called the frog in boiling water, right? Mm-hmm. You just get used to it. If you were taken off in that position and put back in, you probably say, absolutely not. But because you've been in there for so long, you got used to it. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
So, man, for me, change is key. I think my biggest attribute is that, you can ask my wife, I'm always trying to improve. I'm always trying to change. Every single day, I'm trying to do something better. I take notes on the mistakes I made the day before, and the conversations that I had, the things I should have done different. It becomes a little self-analytical by trade a little bit, but it's helped me keep myself on track. To say, hey man, listen, don't feel this way. That didn't really serve you. And it's not perfect. You have days where I'm not good, and the days that I'm not good, I give myself a small window. You know, I'll give an example. Last week, I didn't have the best day. I kind of got my ass kicked with some work stuff and kind of felt discouraged. I think it's common, and you're not going to feel 100% all the time. And I have a Zen den at my house. It's like the garage converted into like a meditation, like health wellness place. And I'm like, okay, 2 hours. Go be sad, go be depressed, go be whatever for 2 hours, and that's it. So I gave myself that space, and that was it. You know, it worked.
And it hasn't been a thought since.
Not really, man. Not really, because then I'll find the answer. You know, I just need time to kind of like feel, let it happen, and then let it go. You know, versus carrying for like 3 to 4 days and like, you know, impacting your mood, impacts your relationships, impacts your conversations. Eventually,
the ripple of every interaction we have in life at any moment is so big.
right?
And we don't really give credit to, you know, somebody cuts us off or says something that we don't like at a coffee shop or at work, and then it carries on into our relationships or to our children, and it's a dangerous wave that is created based off of little things, you know.
It's a little pebble.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
do you find, since the therapist forced you to listen to that book to the end, even though you wanted to quit multiple times, is that what led you to reading 37 books a year now?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of like, okay, well, what else is there? You know, this was like the first discovery. I kind of like, hey, what else is there?
And
know?
once you got to the end of the book, everything clicked for why he was forcing it.
Yeah, I mean, the therapist at the time, which was what I liked about him so much, is that he was a very, had a similar childhood to myself. He was one of 4. His father was really abusive, alcoholic, all that stuff. And 3, I forget exactly, those 4 siblings, one was an alcoholic, 2 of them, one had died, one was sick, and he was the only one that was thriving. You know, so it was like almost a mirror image of the book, you know, where these kids went through a tremendous amount of stress. One of them became an alcoholic, the other one died prematurely, the other one was sick with cancer, and then there was my guy. Coincidence? Maybe. But I believe that if you soak yourself in cortisol long enough, I think something's going to break. You know, we were talking about that earlier. You know, why is this happening to all these adults today? I think maybe the level of stress is much higher. I think I think our lives are moving a lot faster. And,
A lot faster.
you know, maybe you are predisposed for cancer, but doesn't mean you have to have it, you know? And I think if you press enough of your stress responses, I think you're gonna get sick. It's not if, it's when. You know, look as an example, if you look at a gazelle that's on the grass eating, right? If a tiger comes around the corner, well, maybe pause. If the gazelle is out eating, all it's thinking about is what?
The food.
The food, grazing, that's it. When a tiger comes and starts chasing a gazelle, everything locks up. All its responses go into survival. Everything shuts down and it runs. When he finally outruns a tiger, do you think the gazelle goes to its gazelle and say, "Hey, homie, can you believe how big the fucking tiger was?"
No.
He doesn't. He doesn't relive it. It's done. It goes back to restoring all its systems. Well, for you and I, if I piss you off today, you're going to lock up. Everything's going to shut down. I'm going to leave. You're probably going to talk to him about it. I'll talk to your wife about it. You're going to live that for God knows how long. And that's just one response. We have work, relationships, all the stuff that's constantly turning our systems off. So yeah, I think if you mess with that stuff long enough, you're going to get sick.
Just a matter of when, not if.
100%.
Wow.
100%.
That's very deep and very easy to understand.
Yeah.
That is a great analogy there.
So do you look at life different now and just let things go more easily? You don't carry it. You give yourself that window and then...
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm still human. I still have my moments. I still get pissed, you know. I'm in a very stressful business, you know. We're growing the company. We're developing some tech right now. We're putting systems in place. We have new relationships we're forming. So my days are fucking stressful. But I think right now there's a light bulb that goes on and say, hey, listen, turn it down, turn it down. it became a very selfish response because I don't want to get sick prematurely. I don't want things to break, And I've noticed, it happened to me 7 years ago. My body broke, and I'm 100% sure it was because of stress, So now I became a lot more vigilant about how I feel. I'll have moments, don't get me wrong. I'll try to really limit on how long I sit that for.
Do you limit what information you put in your head these days? Like watching certain TV, the news, certain shows that are just not bringing you knowledge or growth?
100%. I stopped watching the news, and forgive me for saying this, you guys. I don't get into the news. It may seem very ignorant, but if I was going to sit at a dining table and talk about politics, I'll probably sound like a 3-year-old because I have absolutely nothing to say. And yeah, I try to keep my brain very nurture with information. I don't expose myself to bad conversations. I don't expose myself to bad information. If some comes my way, it's because it was in a group setting. I do notice an impact on my dreams. I have an impact on how I feel if I'm exposed to information that I perceive to be toxic in some way. Let's just have fun and watch a movie here. I'll watch some silly show, and that's cool. I try not to watch stuff before I go to bed. My sleep is very important because I have noticed that my dreams will shift.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you stay away from your cell phone before bed? Do you have a certain regimen on?
Yeah, so I have 2 settings on my phone. Both are do not disturb. One is higher level than other. The only person can get through my phone is my mom because she's still alive and she's a little older. But yeah, I don't look on my phone. If I look at anything, it would be like if I'm shopping for something, I'm putting a little project together, something that's like not too distressing. And I do not look at my phone in the morning until I get my routine done. I don't. I lied to you. My phone will have no notifications at all. So I do look at the calls, but it's like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to see if my mom called. Because if I had a missed call from her, there's something for me to be alarmed by. That's it. I don't look at texts. I don't look at emails. I don't look at mortgage news, which is news I follow. Man, I look at nothing.
So your morning routine's complete?
Nothing until it's done. So
then you give yourself a window of work, and when people you are reachable to business friends and coworkers and things of that nature.
Yeah, my day starts pretty early, so I try not to eat my personal time with work time. So I'm up pretty early. My routine is about an hour. It doesn't take that long. Then I go about my day, go to the gym. If I'm at the gym, I try to at least pay attention to my phone a little bit. But it's really early, so hopefully there's not a whole lot going on. And then I'll probably get a little more active with my phone probably around 8:30. Then it begins.
Then you push through the day.
Then the window opens.
Yeah.
What attracted you to the mortgage industry for you to go through your health thing and then want to continue staying in it?
Man, at the time, I think was it was really young. My roommate at the time was working for Wells Fargo. The mortgage 2003 was just booming. It was like when we first had a pretty significant change in rates. And at that time, and I say at that time because I think I'm a different person today, it seemed like a really lucrative industry. And I said, hey, I can probably make some money doing this. And that's what got me in. What kept me in is the fact that I think I'm pretty good at my job. I like interacting with people. I like the trust factor that comes with it, which is part of the reason why I set up the company the way I do. I need to be trusted. So if you're not going to trust your lawyer, you're not going to trust your doctor, you're not going to trust your mortgage guy, we shouldn't be doing business together. And so I like that feeling that I get when my clients say, Brad, whatever you say, because I know I have their best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of kept me in. I think it's my skill level and the fact that I like working with people.
Fulfilling to know that people trust your opinion or expertise.
100%. And
that struck a chord with me when you said if you're not going to trust your lawyer or your doctor. And there's 2 things that people are very wary of at this moment in time right now, right?
Yeah.
It's like these were things that people didn't used to question in prior generations, and now we're at a time where we more or less question everything. And obviously self-research is very important in life. I believe that we should all do our own research and due diligence, but it is almost a shame that we have to question the authorities or the government or these type of things. It's not
Yeah.
something that our predecessors worried about questioning.
I know.
Yeah, so it is nice to know that people trust your opinion on the matter and that it's coming from a good, positive place. Yeah.
Yeah, some people walk away. They don't trust me, no matter what I say.
Yeah.
I don't get 100%, but I think most do. And luckily, a lot of my business is referral, so that helps. And that kind of has a domino effect. But yeah, new engagements, you can see like there's a huge guard.
Yeah.
What's this guy talking about? There's got to be money here, money there. And it's not like that at all, man. It's not.
When you point somebody in a different direction and it's kind of off par with what they're used to from your industry,
Yeah.
does it seem, because you say that you put people where you feel like they're best put, not just because of something financial matter, but we feel like there might be a better place for somebody. Do they have a weird wall based off of that? Because everybody thinks everybody has an angle or a thing.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has done a mortgage in their life, so they think they're experts.
Yeah.
And we've been in such a low rate environment, so everybody comes to the door based on rate. Like what's the best rate you can get. I'll share a story with you guys, which the person became a really close friend of mine. He actually wrote a whole business plan for me. He's actually probably my closest business advisor. He came to me, it was a referral, and he was, laser focused on like, I want this rate. I'm going to sell he was giving me signals. I'm going to sell my investments so I can put more money down. I'm going to pay off my car to make my score go up and make my underwrite better. I'm like, man, this guy thinks I'm like chuckling in the back of my mind. I'm like, fuck, okay, let him talk, So when he was done talking, I'm like, Jay, can I share something with you? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I think you had this a little wrong. So I ran a comparison to him. I'm like, listen, your score is already the top tier. You don't get points. There's like matrices.
Making it
You
better,
already
yeah.
broke the matrix. So you're right at the top, right? So
What is
forget-
considered the top?
It depends on the type of product, but generally 740, 760, 780.
So once you hit 780, it doesn't
And
matter.
you can come in with a 900. It's not gonna make a difference, So for his product was 740, and he was above that. And then he said crypto. He said investments. I'm a crypto fan. I believe in the product, some of the product. And I'm like, what's the opportunity cost for you to get rid of those assets, not including taxes, okay, to get to this bigger down payment? Pause that for a second. Pay off the car, that's gonna cost money. What's the interest on that loan? I'm like, let me tell you what a 25, 30% down payment looks like, which is what you want it. Let me show you what a 5% down payment will look like, and you keep everything intact. On and all, the difference, I think, was like $130 a month.
Wow.
So he looked at me, he's like, man, nobody ever talked to me like that before. I'm like, because most guys are gonna sell what you asked, what you came to buy, and that's it. But in this case, the best rate, which there is a better rate, it's not the best rate for you. So you have to understand that you have, there's a lot of things you have to give up to get to this, which in my mind was a marginal difference, Some people think, oh man, this guy wants to get a bigger loan from me. He's gonna make more money because he's selling me a quarter higher in rate. When in reality, I'm not. Yeah, the bigger loan is gonna pay a little bit more, but it's marginal. It's not gonna drive me to advise. So that's kind of been what we do. So to answer your question, yeah, some people trust, some people don't. I think it's just the nature. They think everybody's trying to skim somebody for something all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. From my perspective, with the business background that I'm in, cash is king. And buying properties in Los Angeles right now and putting 20 to 30% down on this for what you get out of it, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And my mind works around like, that's dead money in a property that I'm going to be stuck in for a long period of time that I could use to go start another business or go invest into something that is, a higher risk field, or go day trade with or something else. And it seems like my mind thinks that, well, I'd rather pay more a month or an interest-only loan and
Yeah.
then go try to work this money myself than leave it dead somewhere. So it is interesting because, that's the way I think,
Yeah,
and,
it's
and
right.
obviously you were trying to keep his stuff intact and let him know that there is other options out there, and maybe getting a payment at a certain price isn't the best one.
Isn't the best. And it made a good point too. There's also future, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have some cash parked aside, I don't know how many times I've had clients come to me, they'll buy the property and then like 3 months later,
They
or
gotta
6 months
refi
later,
it?
they want to cash out because, oh my God, I need to get some money back out.
Yeah.
So the refi cycle is usually between 15 to 18 months. We'll see now with rates changing the way they are, but I'm with you. Rates don't scare me. Can I afford the payment? I'm a payment driven person. Rates come and go. Is this payment something I can sustain, manage? And maybe because the business I'm in, or maybe because of my network, there's always opportunities. I've had 2 opportunities this week to put some money into something else, and so I'm with you. I like keeping cash aside. I can manage the payment. I'm not a rate driven consumer, if I'm going to speak as a client. So
Yeah, I know that people are, a lot of times they're stuck on that, and I hear that a lot when people, we save 30% down, we're gonna get this house, and I'm like, it's a lot of money to put down on something that you're gonna be in forever anyway.
yeah,
And there you can refinance later if rates go down, and then maybe that's not the best opportunity. Maybe something's gonna come along once you're locked into it, and now you can't get money back as readily availably as you think.
right.
It's cool that you give people the perspective of, like you said, we all think we know everything about everything in the
Right.
information age because we do our research and we come in and we say, boom, 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 boom. And it's nice to get a professional opinion that isn't on, all right, cool, you got everything figured out and I know I can push this through, so I'm not even going to say nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stamp the paper and push it through and make my money and be on to the next one, right?
Yeah, it's very easy to do that. And I think most people do that. There's some really great guys and women out there that are doing good work. But I think, unfortunately, I think the percentage is lower than not. So the real estate side has been really easy to make money for a long time. So that usually tends to attract bad characters.
Yeah.
And as a broker, I don't have a brand like Wells Fargo over my head. I think our brand is building. We have a lot of good things happening, but I'm never going to be Wells Fargo or Chase, So I'll never say never, but I remember just working for the bank just because that you have that tag.
Yeah.
It already say, hey, I trust you, and it's trust me, man. I've seen banks do some things that I don't know.
Puts you in a predicament.
Well, we're in an age now where things are looking a little topsy-turvy on their side of the table.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
people are getting a little more knowledgeable about, what they're actually
Yeah.
legally required to do with their money and such.
Exactly.
But it's good. And I think obviously you built what you said was one of your most important relationships off of listening, hearing him out, and then altering his plan, which I'm sure was better for him and built you guys' friendship.
Yeah. I mean, I talked to him the other day, and actually he was happy because the asset he had money in, I think I think crypto it crashed. I think did a 3x after that. The house gained equities, payment is manageable, everything worked out. So he actually ended up using some of the gains from the asset that he didn't sell to expand the house.
Wow.
So he's building this like little, it's a big property. So he's building like the property out a little bit. So
There you go.
it worked out. Does it work out every time? I think most, but people have to be responsible as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the common hurdles you have to deal with people coming in and trying to get them approved?
I think today my biggest struggle is, it's getting what I need. Like I'm not selling back massages. I know it's not fun. We're not a spa. This is going to be frustrating, annoying, labor. You don't want to do this. But my biggest struggle, if I had to pick one thing, is if I send a list to a client, the list is not negotiable.
Yes.
It's not like, I won't give them that, but I'll give this instead. It's pretty precise. I need an apple, a banana, and a watermelon. Don't give me a lime and a pear. It's not gonna work, you know? So what happens then, it becomes this ping pong game.
People think they can negotiate.
Yeah, and they're like, well, this should work for you instead. Okay, well, I don't have my bank statement, but here's a screenshot from my phone. This should be enough for you. Oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry. It's just not, you know? So a lot of that happens a lot. And I think with that, you have to be careful because the perception of service begins to dilute. I think one of the reasons why I've done well is a long time ago, I learned about the perception of service. So when I was at HSBC, I had really complex clients. We're a global bank. I had clients with, 35, 40 entities, worldwide, properties in Monaco, properties here. It's just like,
It's a lot.
dude, a lot. And traditionally, people that have a lot of money, they feel like they don't have to provide quite as much because they have cash. But we're not in an equity lending environment anymore, so you have to prove everything that you have. And so the back and forth, I think, can create a diluted perception of service. Because I can go to you and say, hey, man, I need tax returns, bank statements, W-2s, pay stubs. I'm going to let you know, after I scrub this, I'll probably come up with another list of findings. And then the underwriter will come up with one. Our goal is to try to capture and forecast as much as possible on this round. So when we go through underwriting, maybe a couple of things are going to be needed, and we're cool. Well, psychologically speaking, I've noticed the client is going to be a lot more inclined to participate in that game in the beginning. So that's my chance to really get a lot from that client, to even things I may not need, kind of bank some of these documents in case I need it in the future. So I've had clients that say, wow, that was so much easier. I'm like, no, it wasn't easier. I actually got the same shit that you had to get to the next guy. It's when I got it, right? It was at the very moment when you're like, okay, I want to do this. Okay, boom, boom, give me everything that I need. So back to your question, that doesn't work all the time. Some clients will give you
a little here, a little there.
And that little here, a little there isn't even what I need. So now I'm going back and forth 5-6 times, where in the back of his mind or her mind is like, man, this is just a fucking lot of work. It wasn't that hard last time. It's always a comparison to the last time, And so my biggest struggle is like, listen, here's your shopping list. Please give me exactly what I need because I need it, And the same thing happens when you get an approval. Like they think it's negotiable and stuff. Man, I'm sorry. It's just non-negotiable. I've negotiated before I came to you. So if I'm asking for this three things, I got to have it. So.
And what do you mean by once you get an approval? Like the bank's approved the documents, this is their rate, whatever it might be, they think they can now renegotiate it?
Well, not negotiate the rate, but like let's say I've only done this a handful of times in my life where you submit the loan and it's approved with no conditions and the loans go straight to closing. It's very rare that happens because even though you forecast as much as possible, there's always something
that
like
they want.
Something from title, something from the insurance. There's always something. What happens is the clients, let's say I have an approval where there's more things needed from the clients then try to negotiate that. Like, I'm not going to give you that. I'm going to give this to you instead. Very similar to the first list, So to your listeners, listen to your loan officers. If they're asking for if they're asking for bananas, give them bananas.
Yeah.
Don't give them the peels. Give them the whole banana.
Yeah,
So-
it's a very your list is very cut and dry. It's
Black-
what you need to get the dotted line signed and to have this thing
Yeah.
be in the past.
It's black and white, man. It's we're not no common sense business for the most part. Part of my initial conversation with my clients, I'm like, listen, take that big bag of common sense and take it outside. Because if you try to find common sense in some of this, you're not gonna find. So if you can surrender to that and trust me and let me lead, we're gonna be fine. But like I said earlier, people have done a deal here, done there. They refinanced their house 3 times. They're experts.
Yeah.
They know everything. So.
Yeah, it's always fun dealing with people like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm burning oil.
Oh yeah. Oh man. People never cease to amaze me. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
But we're all our own fascinating little creatures, so I try to give us credit for that as well.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of information out there, man. Everything's moving so much faster. You have internet, you have social media, you have ChatGPT, it's just there's so much information. that I read something somewhere that the attention span of a human has gone from like minutes to seconds now.
Yeah.
So you have that element. You have the fact that information is available everywhere. So I don't think COVID helped,
No.
incubating people for 2+ years. So I think right now it's a different time, different
People
time.
used to trust expertise.
Yeah.
I find in my field that everybody's an expert and everybody thinks they know what they're doing and everybody thinks they know every angle of the business,
Yeah.
but none of them have actually done it.
Yeah.
And they know stated estimates of this or that.
Yeah.
And then they tell you their idea and this, and you go, that's great. And now let me tell you about why
This isn't going to
that's not going to work like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or that's not scalable, or it's not a continuous business plan because I feel like it'll be unprofitable. And
Yeah.
they look at you like maybe, but I mean, if you did $600 million worth of mortgages a couple of years ago, you probably know much more about it than I did. If somebody's successful in a certain area in business and life, you should probably trust them
Yeah.
being honest with you. I actually get wary of somebody that makes something sound too easy
Yeah.
because my business radar starts going off and I'm saying,
Yeah.
this seems a little weird. It's a little too.
Too easy.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because actually I've lost business before to competitors that kind of had more of a yes man approach, and I can't, I don't do that. I like to listen, this is, I feel really good about this, but this and this could happen, and but people like easy, people like hearing yes, so I think, you got to be careful, especially in my business. You got to be very careful with what you say, So I think saying yes is not the right approach at all. But I hear you, man. People are. It's a different time.
You're kind of a gatekeeper of sorts, no?
A little bit. I mean,
It's a service, but it is kind of gatekeeping in a way as well because you're bridging the gap between a customer and a loan, more or less.
yeah. I mean, like I'm between the lender and the client, so I have duties to both.
Yeah.
But I feel like lenders, I think right now they want to do business, and I think on a wholesale side of things, I haven't been in retail for so long, so I really can't speak about the retail directly. I've referred a ton of business to retail, but I feel like right now people want to make deals happen, and the comfort I have with the wholesale side is like the reps I talk to. If we run into a problem, we're trying to find a solution. Like, hey, how can we fix this? Can we do this? Can we do that? I didn't quite feel like that back when I was working for the bank. They were very quick to say, sorry, suspend it. It's not going to work. It could be volume. They have so much business coming in that they can just toss clients to the side and say, sorry, I can't help you. That could be very well be it, But I feel like there is some gatekeeping, but I feel there's a little more of a partnership between me and the banks now than before.
Nice.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, is there anything we missed on the business side? And then is there anything that you would like to add on the personal or business flow side that you could share with people that you think will be helpful?
On the business side, man, it just we're looking at some new tech. So I think I want to try to digitize my business a little bit more. I can't give away too much about what we're doing. Sorry,
That's
but
okay.
I can see the direction that the future is going, and I'm trying to tag along with it in some capacity. Try to find a more streamlined way of, without giving away too much, of doing certain things. So that's where we're headed. Like I said, we're growing, and I'm really thankful for the new partnerships we're establishing, and that's going to keep us afloat until, because I might have to step away a little bit now to kind of focus on this side of the project. So, and I'm excited. It's something different, and I think it'll work really well. It'll make the process much better. It might eliminate some of the struggles I've shared here with you guys today.
Yeah. On
a personal side, man, my biggest thing is get up in the morning and never stop changing, never stop growing. I think the guys have succeeded the most. They've had a big drive for change, whether within their business or with their systems or with themselves. I think everything starts with yourself. Nobody knows everything about everything. There's always something new to learn. So if you can kind of make yourself a lifelong learner, I think success is just inevitable. So,
well, I'm in agreement with that for sure, 100%.
yeah.
It's all about the journey and the more that we can learn. That's how I try to live my life,
yeah.
Yeah.
And do better than yesterday.
Yeah, God willing, like that we get up and try at the least,
Yep.
to put our best foot forward, regardless of the acts of God and the things that happen.
Yeah.
We're just out here on our little boat trying to weather the storm. I think all of us. So that's awesome. Well, we appreciate your time.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you.
Thank you
out.
for
Of course, man.
being
Thanks for
honest
inviting.
and sharing your story.
Yeah, of course.
And we look forward to this new tech because it sounds like I kind of see where you're going with it, and that's super awesome and interesting.
Yeah, we'll see, man. It's a fast moving world, so you gotta
Yeah.
move fast. So
Exactly. There is
very
better
excited.
ways, though.
Yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
I see that a lot of the old things are being rebuilt now,
Yeah,
and it is better for the customer and
Yeah.
everybody, in that sense.
yeah. I just hope the new wave won't disturb the market too much overall. I kind of have some concerns about humanity in a way,
Yeah.
about what's going to happen. It's coming,
It is. Yeah.
but I hope there'll be a place for everybody when that happens.
I think we'll shuffle and figure it out.
I'm sure.
I'm a positive person, so I try to see that these things can be, make us better, not worse.
For sure.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
They can I give my number away?
Yeah.
So,
Whatever you're
if-
comfortable with.
We'll have our website, it's, www.mortgageglobe.com. We're on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn. Rod Vianna, you can Google me. I'll sure I'll come up. And if you guys have questions, and one thing I tell everybody all the time, and this is not a sales pitch, is I don't have to be in a deal making money to help. So if you get stuck on a deal, if you're a real estate agent and getting some wrong information that doesn't seem right, call me. I'm happy to help. If we can do a deal in the future, that's great. I don't withhold information. I don't think my brain is inaccessible. So any information I can share or advice I can give me a call.
Blessing. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
That's awesome. Yeah. We'll make sure to have everything down there below so it'll be easily read. And, thank you for your time.
Thanks, man.
We've learned a lot.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks, guys. Of course, man.
Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next one.